recording?
Yes. Happy birthday, Rachel.
Oh, I had no idea what was happening. I was like, I think she's showing me creepy music that she found, but that sounds like happy birthday.
Yes, it's a very special day. It's Miss Rachel's birthday.
Thank you.
So I couldn't let it go without doing something weird.
That is so sweet. That's a creepy birthday, too.
I know. I thought, what better way to do this?
Oh, thank you, Kayla.
You're
That's
welcome.
so sweet. Yes, I am 34 today.
You don't look it at all.
Oh, thank you, girl. I don't. No, I do feel it. I actually feel much, much, much older, but hanging in there.
Once you hit like 29, which is what I am right now, it just all starts going downhill. Like my body hurts all the time.
It does. Like when you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh gosh, like the creaks and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, we're starting this already.
Well, don't they say at like 25 your body starts dying?
Don't they say like when you're born the cells start dying?
Well, they do. Like no, I think it's like you continue
to
regenerate until 25 when your brain fully forms, and then it's like downhill from there. But hey, hopefully we have like 75 more years. I don't know if I want to live for 75 more years, but
yeah,
a little bit longer.
Well, fingers crossed. We'll see. Oh, well, thanks.
So, how has your week been?
I will say I've had better weeks. I've had better weeks, but I'm trying to find a positive upswing. I can't really find one.
You woke up and you're breathing. That's a good one.
But I am
right?
breathing, and I have my family, and there's always a Pollyanna way to look at things, I suppose. So no, I'm okay about. I have no idea what I'm saying. My brain is just fried.
I shouldn't have asked.
You're fine. How about you? How was your week?
My week's been okay. Pollen is hitting really, really hard. So Jax had just a cough all week, and I finally gave him Zyrtec, and that was helping him sleep. Mm-hmm. And then I started getting the cough because I took him outside to play. Uh-huh. And now I sound kind of like a smoker. So
again, sexy.
Thank you. I'm glad I can pull off lung disease.
Pollen, for those of you who don't know, we are in Georgia, and I thought pollen was bad up north in the Midwest. It is that's nothing compared to what happens here. You literally see a layer of yellow on
You can see
everything.
it in the sky. There's some days that the sky is just hazy yellow because there's so much pollen.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like global warming that's making it worse, but as I've gotten older, I've not been able to tolerate it as well as I used to.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, down here, when you start to be able to, go outside again, the weather starts to become nice. You need to dedicate at least a day or two to depollen everything outside, which I never, have experienced in my life before moving here. So anyway.
Yep. You got to go out, hose everything down, sweep it all off. Mm-hmm, you wash your car, and then a second pollinating hits the next week, and you got to go wash it again. So
the pollinating.
It is. That's what we call it down here, the pollinating.
Yes. Oh, we are jazzed.
Yes. I'm so excited for this episode.
We researched high and low to find the perfect content for you guys. We had a poll this past week. We want to give you guys exactly what you want to hear. And we wanted to kind of steer away from what we had been doing in the past. Not that we won't, have some researched topics, different episodes containing that stuff. But we wanted to know exactly what you guys wanted to hear, and we are delivering. Girl.
We got to keep it fresh.
Yes. So this week's episode is going to be ghost stories.
I'm going to have to turn that way up.
Ghost stories. There you go. That's
very good.
Editing, Kayla. That's a little treat for you.
Thank you for that.
So the two highest voted things on the poll were ghost stories and true crime. So this week we'll give you that, and next time we will do true crime.
Yep, I'm excited about that one too. Like, I love watching documentaries. I don't know why. What is it about white girls liking to watch documentaries about people who died? I don't get it.
Wasn't it? Is it the Ted Bundy one's out right now?
Oh,
right?
yeah. Okay, so see, I switched off Netflix so that I could have HBO for Game of Thrones.
Oh,
so I can't watch the Ted Bundy thing. Well, I watched the documentary, but I can't watch the movie with Zac Efron until Game of Thrones ends. So I'm kind of going crazy.
I'll give you my Netflix login, girl. You can have
Thanks,
it.
girl.
Yeah, I mean, you need to be able to watch that. So we're gonna hop into the episode first. As always, we want to let you guys know where to find us. Okay, Facebook, the Good Luck Sleeping Podcast. Instagram, Good Luck Sleeping Podcast. Twitter, GL Sleeping. And you can email us at any time at goodlucksleepingpodcast@gmail.com. Okay, so on Instagram, we are having an influx of followers, and that's really nice. It's nice to have that community also. I've been getting some messages from some fellow podcasters just giving us some tips here and there on how to get ourselves out there. But I will still say the place to, interact with us the most, Kayla and I, is on Facebook. So find us on there and share it with your friends. Let's continue to grow our little family.
Yeah, I've been enjoying the content that you're putting out on Instagram, and then all of the involvement on the Facebook group has been really nice.
I love that little group. So, all right, Kayla, let's hear your first little bit.
Okay, so Rachel took the longer story route, and I'm really impressed and really excited because I had the hardest time finding anything longer than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So what I did instead was I found so many shorter stories that just left me with a chill.
Okay.
And I decided I was going to share several of those. And then we'll sprinkle yours in there too. Yeah. So the first one I have is called Doppelganger. And it is by Quiet Voice 4846 on Reddit. It says, late at night, I usually go to the bathroom multiple times, but for the past 4 days, every time I go to leave, I can see myself still standing in the mirror from the corner of my eye. It is like the other me is watching me leave the bathroom. It terrifies me to the point where I almost run out without looking directly at the mirror. I never told my husband about it because I didn't want to acknowledge it out loud. Earlier today, I took a nap in our bed while he sat in the chair next to it watching TV. When I woke up, he told me that he had seen me sit up and crawl backwards to the edge of the bed and stand up in front of our bedroom door from the corner of his eye. He thought it was weird that I got up like that because I'm in the last month of my pregnancy and I can't really move so good without it hurting, so he tried talking to me. When I didn't answer, he looked at the door to find me not there and still sleeping in bed. I got really creeped out, and I finally told him about what I've been seeing in the bathroom. He thought it was creepy as well, but didn't want to really talk about it anymore because he thinks it will give whatever it is power or energy. I have no idea what it wants or why we've both seen it.
Doppelgangers are fascinating. I actually have a list in my phone of future topics for the podcast.
Yes.
Doppelgangers is one of them.
I didn't know, okay, so I've seen Vampire Diaries and that show is full of doppelgangers, but I didn't know that this was a legit paranormal being. Mm-hmm. It was amazing to see that.
Fascinating.
So I just when he talked about it getting up and crawling to the edge of the bed, I was like, oh no.
Again, any unnatural weird movement from paranormal entities is terrifying.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay, so my next one is called Shh, and it's by Fuzzy Bandits.
What a terrifying name.
I know, right?
Okay.
When I was a teenager, I used to babysit my cousin Alyssa. She was little, maybe almost 2, maybe a little older, old enough to say sentences. I'm giving her a bath before bed when she looks out into the hallway and gets a terrified look on her face and starts crying. At this moment, my aunt's Pomeranian starts going nuts as well, barking and growling into the hallway. The atmosphere in the room became uncomfortable, and I started getting scared. I took her downstairs from the 3rd floor in the townhouse to try and calm her down. I asked her what was wrong, and she said something along the lines of, "The man with the black eyes was there." When I continued to pry, she looked up at the 2nd floor stairs, her eyes getting big, and looks at me, bringing her finger up to her mouth and said, "Shh," while shaking her head no. If my child ever did that, I would move. Okay, the next one is really sad, in my opinion. Are you ready?
I am ready.
This one is called The Shoe in the Riverbed. Have you heard this one?
I have.
Dang
that
it.
is perfect. Go with it.
A few years ago, Tontontum had just been going through a rough divorce from their high school sweetheart. Their best friend had taken distracting them by taking long road trips. One morning, they were on their way to Carlsbad, New Mexico, when they paused alongside a river dam. They were drinking cider and snacking when the pair decided to explore the dried riverbed.
It was obvious that they weren't the first ones to go trekking through the riverbed. The pair could see human, canine, and feline footprints in the mud. They then recall starting to feel an odd sensation like they were being watched. Their friend caught the riders' attention and called them over. There was a bone in the ground, what they now believe was a spinal cord. At first they thought it was a beef or pork bone of some kind. They continued looking around the riverbed when they found a strange, rust-colored rock sticking out from the sand. When they got closer, they realized it was a half-buried little girl's shoe. The Reddit user stepped back and ran forward, preparing to kick the shoe. An odd reaction to see a shoe sticking in the sand. Suddenly, they heard a little girl's voice shout, "No, don't, please!" They looked around, but they didn't see anyone besides themselves and their friend. A friend asked why they stopped, and they replied, "Didn't you hear that little girl?" Both confused, they decided to shrug it off and continue on their way. Meanwhile, the feeling that someone was watching them grew stronger. A few minutes later, they spotted another bone. Now they began to get scared. The bone was clearly human. The friend called the non-emergency police number for Carlsbad, and they reported what they saw. 1 week later, they received a call from their friend that the Carlsbad police had called to report the bones they found were indeed human. During the investigation, the two were questioned and eventually informed that the rust-colored rock actually wasn't a rock at all, but the shell of a pickup truck that had disappeared along with the family of 3 it had been carrying. A man, a woman, and their daughter. It made the Reddit user think back to the girl's shoe sticking out of the mud and the voice they heard. Could the little girl have spoken directly to them?
Wow, like protecting her family almost, protecting herself.
Or saying, "Hey, we're here, we're here."
Yeah.
So, that one was really sad.
Oh. Do they... Okay, I don't think Reddit gives you, background, but I wonder, what happened in... it must have just fallen in the river, the truck.
I'm guessing
Driven
so.
off the
Maybe
edge?
I don't know if, they accidentally crashed and drove into the river, or if it was more sinister than that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
All right, and this last one is called Ouija Board Warning. Do you call it Ouija or Ouija?
Ouija.
Ouija, okay.
Ouija board.
Ouija Board Warning.
We're at the Wendigo, Wendigo,
Right?
Wendigo
I
thing
should
again.
look up a pronunciation. Ouija. Ouija. Yeah, you're going to die at this guy's name. Last year, Small Bean Dean went to a friend's house for a party. Around 1 a.m, the group decided...
Sorry. I gotta make a mental note to name my next pet Small Bean Dean. All right, keep going.
Okay. Around 1 a.m, the group decided to use a Ouija board. The Reddit user was the only one who believed in accounts of the paranormal, so she was hesitant when her friends brought out the board. But instead of giving her friends more reasons to tease her when it came to the paranormal, she acted as if she didn't believe in such activity. They began asking the board questions. They started with a few normal questions and nothing really exciting happened. Then someone asked if the spirit wanted to hurt them, and it responded with, "Only one." The group started to get creeped out at this point, and rightfully so. When one friend asked the natural follow-up question, "Who?" the board spelled out Natasha, the Reddit's user's full name.
Ooh.
It should be noted that she does not care for that full name and has everyone call her Tasha instead. Tasha then left the room while her friends continued playing, but found out later that night that the group forgot to say goodbye to the board. Anyone familiar with a Ouija board knows that closing the interaction with the spirit is crucial before stopping use of the board. Needless to say, she was nervous. After this, Tasha has no memory of the night. She only remembers getting a migraine and nosebleeds. Her friends took videos of her acting strangely, speaking with a changed voice, and a few instances of her talking in other languages. However, that night wasn't the only time this happened. In the days following, Tasha's parents reported the same things happening. Once again, she remembered nothing but migraines and nosebleeds. About 2 weeks later, she was back to normal, or so she thought. Tasha was suddenly hospitalized for an excruciating pain in her kidney, so bad that it almost shut down. The doctors tried everything but couldn't figure out what was wrong. Then on the day she was scheduled for surgery, the pain suddenly stopped. 1 day later, Tasha was released. Since that incident, she has never felt like she was truly alone. Sometimes she feels someone grabbing her hands or neck, making it difficult to breathe. Tasha has always believed in the paranormal, but this experience made it far more real for her. I would say so.
Yep.
Now, I don't know if that one's a ghost or a demon. I mean, to me, when you associate with a Ouija board, you're pretty much talking to demons. So, not really sure, but don't freak me out.
Those are good.
Have you ever messed with a Ouija board?
No.
Me either.
No.
That's off limits for me.
Yes. Although I've always been super curious about it, you know?
Yeah.
But
I think everybody is.
Mm-hmm. Have you noticed though, I think I would have been more of a risk taker before I had kids.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now that I have a family, I'm like much more protective of them in all areas, including the areas of like the paranormal and spirituality and stuff.
Right.
So I was actually, oh my gosh, there's a really great ghost story that Ryan told me when we were dating, and he played it off like it was a real story. And at the end, you like literally spook the person. Okay. And it terrified me when he told me this in the car. It was such a good story. And I was like, I should do that to Kayla and just play it off like it's a real story. But I'm like, nah, man, she's pregnant. I don't want to mess with that. So anyway.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So those were amazing.
Thank you.
I have 2 longer stories. So what I did for this week is I researched, and when I couldn't, like Kayla said, find a long story, I was like determined. So I watched a lot of shows to try and find some spooky episodes that I could like recount for you guys. I ended up watching the show Paranormal Survivor, and I have the season and episode listed so that if you guys want to go back after I read these stories and like watch the first-hand account and watch them actually tell it themselves, you can do that.
Oh,
so I thought that might be kind of neat. Yeah. I also am going to try hard to not read my notes verbatim and really kind of make this a scary tale for you.
I think that's great.
I really want you guys, if you're not at work, if you're listening to this at home, turn the lights out, you know, like just make this extra spooky.
Set the scene.
Yes. You know, if you're brave enough, which I don't know if I would have been, had I been listening to this episode, but okay. So the first story that I'm going to read is the less creepy of the 2, still very scary. So this was from season 2, episode 6 of Paranormal Survivor. I chose it also partly because it takes place in Macomb, Illinois, which is, yes, very close to where I grew up and actually where my parents first lived when they were married.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, ooh, maybe it was like in their old neighborhood. So this is 1988, Macomb, Illinois, with Mark Foster. Okay. So Mark was 13 years old at the time, and he was having trouble in school. So in order to like give him a fresh start, his parents thought it would be a good idea for him to go live with his aunt. Okay, so he went to live in an old home with his aunt, who also had a baby daughter named Megan. So apparently this move was pivotal in his life and showed him that there are things that can't be explained. He found that the paranormal was very, very real and very, very scary because of all the things that happened in this home. So his first impression of the house when he went in was that it was dark and negative. It was a ranch-style home that dated back to the 1800s. Apparently it had a basement or like a root cellar, but the door to that was boarded up. Like you weren't...
Oh, comforting. That's normal.
So nobody ever went down there, obviously. Next door to the house was a very large Victorian-style home. Okay. Also,
I love Victorian style, but I'm like torn because the ghost aspect.
Exactly. 100%. Because you obviously always have to like remodel those.
Yeah.
And they always say remodeling stirs up
the spirits, right?
So picture a ranch style house, but next door to it is like a grand Victorian. Okay. Like a big house. So strange things started happening as if the house had a mind of its own. The toilets would flush in the middle of the night, lights would come on, heavy wooden doors would open and close, doorknobs would rattle, and I believe he like was talking about how when he would be asleep at night, his door would rattle. Okay.
Oh God, no!
Yeah. So the house itself had its own personality. This is where the fear really begins with the story.
Okay.
So one Saturday night, his aunt had gone out, and he had left Mark alone to babysit his little cousin Megan, so her daughter. Okay. He said he felt very comfortable with this, like as if he'd done this before. Meg was about 18 months old, and at this point he explained, and this is pivotal later on in the story, that Meg at the time hadn't gotten her feet under her yet. Okay. So she couldn't stand up on her own, like in the middle of the floor, stand up type of a thing. I think he said like she could pull herself up, but she couldn't walk yet. She was very wobbly.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's important for later. So Mark heard a knock at the back of the door after the baby had gone to sleep that night. And officer came in and said that he had gotten a report that there was a party going on at the house. Okay. And the officer was a friend of the family. So he was able to tell him where the call had come from. Normally, like, that information isn't given out. Okay. And it came from the old Victorian-style home next door. Okay.
Okay, so they didn't own both these houses.
No.
Did they know the neighbors that owned the Victorians?
No, they said, actually, that the Victorian-style house looked empty.
Oh.
Like, they never saw people coming and going.
Oh, my God.
And, like, newspapers would collect on the porch. Like, literally, in all the time that him and his aunt had been there.
Nobody lived there.
Nobody lived there.
Oh,
Okay. So he said that the call came by next door. So anyway, officer looked around, went in all the rooms, and he's like, all right, you know, I mean, there's nobody here, so I get it, you know, and he left. Later that night, Meg began to cry. Okay. So Mark went up and checked on her, and she was all right. I think he went into the kitchen and made her a bottle, and then when he'd come back up into the room, there was a bottle sitting on the floor where he had stood to check on her. So no bottle before, and then he found one sitting in the place that he was standing when he went to check on her. Okay?
So he went down, fixed the bottle, and when he came up, there was a bottle on the floor.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah. So he felt rattled, and he was like, oh my gosh, is somebody in the house? You know what I mean? So he looked all around, got really creeped out. Okay? But he gave her the bottle, and then went to look for some protection for them. Okay. So he was alone, and he remembered that his aunt kept a bat behind the couch in the living room. So he went and grabbed that bat. And after a thorough investigation, he said that he found that the house was empty aside from himself and his little cousin. He heard another knock on the door. Okay. It was the same police officer.
Okay.
So he explained that he'd had yet another call about a party in the house. Didn't say if it was from the Victorian style house again. Like they skipped over that part in the story. I assume that it was. So Mark explained to the officer that there was nobody here and that he'd been experiencing a lot of strange things that he couldn't explain. The officer, knowing Mark, knew he was telling the truth. So he said that the officer put his arm on his shoulder, said, okay, you know, this is really, really weird. I'm going to go out and find your aunt, okay, and bring her back to the house. Tell her that she needs to come home.
Not just like stay until your aunt comes back. Would be the normal choice.
Right. Okay. So remember, this is 1988. This is
That's
before
true.
Cell phones. Maybe his aunt was known to frequent certain areas, you know, so he went out to find her, and Mark's like, cool. Guess I'm home alone again. So as soon as the officer left, the activity picked up even more. Okay. Meg began making noises upstairs, and he went back upstairs to check on her, and he saw that she was standing unnaturally straight, as if somebody was holding her up under her arms. Okay. So
was she touching the rail or anything?
No, in the middle of the bed, standing up unnaturally straight, just staring at him. Okay. So again, Meg had trouble keeping her legs under her, remember? So she would have needed assistance to do what she was doing. He heard something behind him at that exact moment that he's staring at Meg. So he turns around to look, and nobody's there, okay? But when he turns back to see Meg, she was sound asleep in her crib.
No! No!
At that point...
Take the baby and leave.
I know. But I would almost be like scared to touch her. I'd be like, oh gosh, what is going on with you? So at that point, the tea kettle on the stove started whistling.
Of course it did. Of course it did.
So it went on full blast. Okay, so he ran downstairs to check on it and saw that every burner was on the stove, and they were electric burners. Okay, so every burner was turned on. All the cabinets were open, and the fine china had been set up on the kitchen island neatly, as if someone were coming over for tea. Okay. So he lost it, obviously, because he knew he had to go into the room to turn the burners off. Like, he's in charge of his little baby cousin. He has to go in there to turn off that so that, you know, nothing happens to the house and no fires start. So he went in there, and as soon as the kitchen was quote-unquote safe, he knew he had to go back upstairs to protect his cousin. He was unable to get through the doorway to his cousin because he was physically picked up and thrown backwards through the door. Yep. So he tried to go into the room, picked up, thrown. He ended up needing, later on he went to the hospital for this. He has a scar from it to this day, and he needed around 12 stitches to close up the wound that he'd gotten.
Oh my gosh.
So he was stunned and bleeding, and he's afraid that his cousin may have been attacked too, so he knew he needed to get to her. So he kind of barreled down, he said, and busted through the door. He was able to grab her from the crib and bolted downstairs. And at that point, I think he said he took her to the couch, held her while he was just waiting and bleeding. Okay. His aunt came home, finally.
Seriously.
And saw the state that Mark was in and instantly started panicking. Mark was able to explain the entire evening to her after a minute. After that, he moved out shortly.
Understandably.
And went back to Chicago, I think, with his family. Okay, so like that, this whole incident was the last straw for him. Years later, he received a clue as to why the events at the house had occurred. He said that the foundation of the old Victorian house next door was excavated and found that there was a tunnel that connected the two homes. They also found the remains of what appeared to be a family.
Oh,
okay.
Man.
So Mark believes that it was the angry spirit of the father that attacked him. He kind of felt that it was a protective male that was harassing him in the house next door. So it kind of makes sense, I guess.
Well, and it sounds like the ghost was trying to somehow take care of the little girl.
Right.
I mean, it gave it a bottle.
Yep.
It seemed like it was playing with it by helping her stand up.
Right.
So,
it didn't say like the ages of the family that was buried, but it very well could have been like the father trying to scare Mark out because he didn't trust him.
Yeah. Well, and ghosts seem to get confused too. They don't understand what's their possession and what's not their possession. So it could have thought that she was his child or something.
Exactly.
That's so crazy though. Oh my gosh.
I know. So
was there any other experiences? Did the aunt experience anything?
Not in the episode, at least.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So this completely changed his personality, and he became introverted and withdrawn. And he says today he still has effects of this psychologically. So.
Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that was during very formative years too.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine like PTSD
seriously
inducing situations there? So
that was creepy.
That's story number 1, the least scary of the two.
Oh my gosh, that gave me chills. So I'm excited to see what the next ones are. All right. For my final 4, this one is called My Great Grandmother's House. It's by 900 Popter.
Oh, I miss Little Bean Dean.
I know, Small Bean Dean.
All right.
Okay, so this person loves their grandparents but hates their house. The house has been in the family for over a century, and something has always felt off about it. The rooms would always feel cold despite the air being off, and visitors often reported feeling like they were being watched. For about a month, this user and their parents were living in the house. It was during this time that an event happened that terrified them. One night, they woke for no particular reason and went to the bathroom. Suddenly, the door shut and locked behind them. Okay, by the way, this website does not say he or she. It's always they and them. So it sounds like it's multiple people. I don't know if it's, to respect gender fluidity or whatever it is, but when I say, it's just the person. So the lock on the door was broken, so it shouldn't have been able to lock, let alone close on its own. Then the light in the bathroom went out. They had always been interested in ghost hunting and had a ghost hunting app on their phone. I'm really surprised I don't have one yet.
Oh, I do.
You do? That doesn't surprise me at all.
I'll get you hooked up after the show.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool beans. I'm not sure I want to, but
probably true, actually.
All right. They'd used it in the past, but assumed it didn't work. The app was supposed to tell its user whatever the ghost was saying. As they opened the app, they felt something or someone breathing down their neck. A few seconds later, the door unlocked and the radar read one word: run. They ran back to hide and hid under the covers until they fell asleep. The next night, they woke again and went into the kitchen for a snack. It was there that they saw a dark figure pick something up from the pantry, turn to them, and then disappear.
Oh.
They tried to return to their room, but the living room door slammed shut as they walked toward it. Again, they felt someone breathing down their neck. They kept pulling at the door until it finally opened. Back in their room, hiding under the covers, they couldn't sleep because they kept hearing footsteps on the porch. The next night, they decided to try sleeping in the den. Their phone was left open to the ghost hunting app when it picked up a signal. It read Quentin, their great-grandfather's name. That was the last activity the user experienced before they moved out.
Ooh. Ooh.
So I guess we know who it was.
Quentin.
But jeez, run. That would be the worst thing ever.
Okay, so it's like an app that you like leave open. I'm pretty sure I have the exact same app.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and like the spirits can apparently use, the signals to create words. Yes. Yeah. So like I would get like the stupidest words, you know what I mean? Like stairway, hot dog, like kitchen. And I'm like, you want to go up the stairway to get a hot dog from the kitchen? I don't get it, So it was never anything that was like fluid and related to each other. So anyway, interesting.
But I mean, if you're locked in the bathroom and then it unlocks and says run.
Oh, yeah, I'm out.
Yeah. Peace.
Yep.
Okay, this next one is called There's Something Terrorizing My Family.
Okay.
About 2 weeks ago, Twin Fish 93's little sister began hearing voices. She said it's a deep and masculine voice that calls to her at night in her room, telling her to come outside. That's a big heck no for me.
No.
It comes from outside in the middle of their yard. One day, their parents went out and the Reddit user, their 2 little sisters, and their friends stayed home alone. So that's 4 people.
Okay.
That night, they saw something moving in the small patch of trees in their backyard. Telling the younger girls to stay inside, they went to investigate but found nothing. On their way back inside, something threw them over 5 feet into the air. They scrambled to their feet and ran inside, losing a shoe in the process. After cowering inside for a few minutes, they realized they needed that shoe for work the next day. I would just go buy some new shoes. But they ventured back outdoors. This time, they came prepared, bringing their dog with them for protection. But he refused to follow them into the backyard because he's smart.
Yep.
As quickly as they could, they grabbed their shoe and ran back inside. Finally back indoors, they asked the elder of their sisters to look at their back because they felt like it was burning. She pulled up her shirt and screamed. There were several long scratches running down the user's back. The 4 then went out to the front porch while the youngest went back inside to retrieve something. Why? Why didn't you grab it on your way out the door? But she came back a few seconds later saying someone was looking into their back window. The only problem was that in order for her to have seen someone in the window, that person would have had to have been over 7 feet tall. Now, all thoroughly freaked out, they decided to remain on the porch until one of their parents came home. After a few minutes passed, they heard heavy footsteps running toward the front yard from the side of the house where the driveway extends. Gravel flew as though it was being kicked up, but nothing was there. They went back inside until their mother got home. She blessed the area where the Reddit user was attacked and their sister's body and spirit. Whatever the thing was, it didn't appear to be able to get inside the house. The user and her sister still believe it's hanging around the house to this day.
Do you want to know something so ironic and crazy? I came across this story my research. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And I messaged the Reddit user.
You did?
I 100% did. Because I'm like, hey, I came across your story. Super spooky. Because I think there's a link in that.
Yeah.
And you can like read the actual story. Yeah. So I messaged her. I was trying to find it while you were reading it. And I can't find it on I'm technically inept. But so we might get a response from this story. And
what did you ask her?
I was like, hey, can we read this on our podcast? It's super interesting. I have some follow-up questions if you're available.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We might have some further information on this because I thought it was fascinating.
That is so I didn't even think about reaching out to these people, honestly. That is such a good idea.
Well, I mean, like, obviously I can't find where I reached out to her, so we may never hear back. Yeah. Okay.
That's crazy.
Yes. Great story though.
Okay. So this is the last of the Reddit user stories. And then I have one celebrity story.
Oh, how exciting.
Yes. Which is demonic. It's not ghost, but it was still freaky, so I'll get out. Okay.
Yes.
So this last one is called Haunted by My Sister's Doll. Now we all know the dolls are hella creepy.
Yep.
And we've all seen Annabelle, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. So, when I was growing up, I had porcelain dolls and I never thought anything of it. Now I would never put one in my house.
Yeah. Especially the kind that have like the eyes that open and shut.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or like I had, her name was Amazing Amy, but we called her Annoying Amy because she would just go off in the middle of the night. I'm hungry. I want a hookie, which was a cookie, but it sounded like she was saying hookie. And so we eventually had to take the batteries out. I am so thankful she didn't continue after the batteries came out.
Can you imagine? Yes.
Oh, she was crazy. Okay. So ever since DJ Rocks 56 was at school with friends talking about Chucky, they've been afraid of dolls. Luckily, the only one they had at home was a basic Barbie doll. But then for Christmas, their sister got 2 porcelain dolls and a big rag doll. Those dolls really freaked the Reddit user out. Every time they went into their sister's room, they would turn the dolls toward the wall so they weren't looking at them or into the room. Soon, creepy things started happening. Cuts and scratches would appear on the writer's hands and knees with no explanation of how they got there. One morning when they woke up, there was red scratches on their back, although they didn't remember any pain or feeling of being scratched. The scariest thing happened while they were home alone. They went into the sister's room to play with her Dreamcast. So this is like circa early 2000s. As they made their way in, turning all the dolls toward the wall, they heard a little girl's laugh. The rag doll that had been lying on their sister's bed facing the wall slowly began turning toward them. They ran, locking themselves in their room until their mother and sister got home. Neither believed the story, and their sister was mad because the rag doll had fallen to the floor. The next day, the writer took the doll to the dumpster and never saw it again. Probably the smartest person in all of these stories.
Yes. Oh, that's so funny. But what would have been even more scary was if they said that after throwing it away, it appeared again. You know what I mean?
Yes.
In their room.
Oh my gosh, that would have been crazy.
Yes. Okay. I'm excited to find out which celebrity this is.
The celebrity is Ariana Grande. And I know people have mixed feelings about her, but feelings aside, this is terrifying.
I love her.
I do too. I personally love her. So there was actually a surprisingly large amount of celebrities who have had ghost experiences, but this one was the freakiest for me.
Interesting.
Okay, so in an interview, she said, "I've had a ghost demon experience. We were in Kansas City a few weeks ago and went to this haunted castle, and we're so excited. I wasn't aware there was a haunted castle in Kansas City, but now I want to go. The next night, we wanted to go to the Stoll Cemetery, which is known as one of the 7 gates to hell on Earth." Sounds like a fun time.
I mean, I need to hang out with Ariana.
I know. I felt this sick, overwhelming feeling of negativity over the whole car, and we smelled sulfur, which is the sign of a demon. And there was a fly in the car just randomly, which is another sign of a demon. I was like, this is scary. Let's leave. I rolled down the window before we left and said, "We apologize. We didn't mean to disrupt your peace." Then I took a picture, and there are 3 super distinct faces in the picture. They're faces of textbook demons. So that was where the first story ended. And I'm like Googling this picture, right?
Yeah.
Because I want to see it. So then I find out there's more to the story. She said, "I was going to sleep about 2 weeks ago. I had just gotten off the phone, and as soon as I closed my eyes, I heard this really loud rumble right by my head. When I opened my eyes, it stopped immediately. But when I closed my eyes, it started again with whispers. Every time I closed my eyes, I started seeing these really disturbing images with like red shapes. Then I opened my eyes and got back on the phone and was like, I'm really scared and I don't want to go to bed tonight. And then I scooched over to the left side of my bed because that's where the best service in my room is. And there was this massive black matter. It was like a cloud of something black right next to me. I started crying. I was on the phone like, what do I do? What do I do? I don't know if she was talking to somebody or if she was just like pulling up her phone. And I guess she was on the phone because the person said, tell it to F off. Oh. She said, I'm not going to do that. It's going to upset it. So I'm just going to go chill and not feed into it because all it wants is fear. I watched it move to the front of my bed and then I fell asleep on the phone. When I woke up, it was gone.
Wow, she's bold.
I know. And smart because it really does, they do feed on fear. So if you give it more. So in the interview, the person naturally said, let me see the picture. And she said, I deleted it. And I'm like, of course she did. But she has a reason. The next day, she tried to send the picture to her manager and it said, this file can't be sent. It's 666 megabytes.
Oh.
She said, I'm not kidding. I used to have a folder called Demons that had pictures with all the screen caps in it. But then weird things started happening to me. So I deleted it. Oh, and those weird things, they include disturbing dreams and visions, as well as the black matter cloud and a couple other things. So she ended up deleting the picture, but I'm like, dang it.
I did not know that she was interested in the paranormal.
I didn't either. There's a surprising amount of people in Hollywood that believe in the paranormal. I mean, Emma Stone had an experience. I think it was her great-grandfather or something like that. There was some actresses, old theaters are typically haunted. So anybody who does like Broadway, they typically have experiences with ghosts and things. It was really fascinating. But that one, I was like,
right? There was a show. I don't know much about Ariana Grande, but that fascinates me. I just love her voice. You can't deny that she's got the most beautiful voice.
And she's gorgeous too.
She is. Oh yeah. No denying that.
Just like all 3 boxes checked.
I date her.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, there was a show that was about celebrity encounters. So that was interesting. Maybe that's an idea for an episode sometime.
That would be fun.
Yeah. Celebrity encounters.
Only we could interview them.
I was going to say, surprise. I have Ariana Grande on the phone here. She's going to go ahead and,
that would be amazing.
No. All right. Last story. Oh, this one was fantastic. Okay.
I'm so excited.
Paranormal Survivor. So this is season 2, episode 5, if you'd like to watch it yourself. This was in the year 2000 in Windsor, Ontario. And there are 2 people in this story. Rose Sterling and her daughter, Trisha, but they call her Trish in the story. Okay. So she's a single mom, Rose is, and she started having nightmares in the year 2000 about a house. Okay. And she would be so upset that she would wake up crying because of these. I thought my son was coming in.
I felt the footsteps go by.
Okay. So she would be so upset by these nightmares that she would wake up crying. She would see a little girl walking around a home, and she would also see people who had been hung inside the house. Okay.
Oh no.
These nightmares occurred 2 or 3 times a week for about 6 months.
Okay.
She actually began to see a counselor because of these dreams, because they were so disturbing. She had to talk to somebody about it.
Yeah.
6 months after the nightmares began, Rose and her daughter rented a beautiful historic house. Okay. It was over 100 years old with 5 bedrooms in a huge backyard that overlooked the Detroit River. They thought it was perfect for them. Okay. As soon as they walked into the door, they knew they'd made a mistake. They were overcome with anxiety and sorrow with no explanation. Spoiler alert, this was the house from Rose's dream.
I was about to say, this is the nightmare house.
Obviously. They wanted to pack up and leave right away, but they couldn't due to financial reasons.
Everybody has. Yeah, everybody's like, I can't afford to move. I'm like, living in your car is better than being terrorized.
I know.
Ghosts
oh my
and demons.
Gosh. Despite their fears, they did a walkthrough of the house, and they finally reached the attic. Rose's daughter, Trish, immediately became overcome with sadness and dropped to her knees crying at the entrance of the attic.
Because someone hung themselves, didn't they?
I don't know about there, surprisingly.
Oh, okay.
So,
just not in the attic. Everywhere else in the house.
So they stayed overnight on the main floor together because this was the only place that they'd felt safe. And ironically, this was also the place that Rose felt safe in her dreams. Like while she was, exploring the house in her dreams, she always felt the safest in the living room.
It's base. They can't touch you there.
Base. Can't tag me. The first night there, they heard screams, stomping, doors slamming, shadows coming down the stairs, etc.
That's so much for a first night.
Yeah, night 1.
Oh, God. Okay.
So it was absolutely terrifying for them. Despite her fears and emotions, Trish was always drawn to the attic, so this is the daughter. She physically saw a little girl there around 5 or 6 years old. Trish knew that she was a ghost, but she looked absolutely real. Okay. And she also felt the need to appease her. So throughout the days, she would bring her toys and everything that a little girl would want. She felt the little girl was lonely and wanted to comfort her. Rose always tried to keep her away, but Trish had become obsessed. Like, Rose knew that this little girl was a little ominous. Okay.
Yeah.
Aside from the girl, there were other more evil entities. Trish would run to her mom crying, saying, there's people hanging in the house. Don't you see them? They're right there. They're hanging.
How old was Trish? Did you say that?
It didn't say.
It didn't say. Okay.
Okay, so this was filmed recently, and she's an adult.
Okay.
So if this was in the year 2000, she had to have been like an early teenager.
Yeah.
I would probably say.
Yeah.
As the days went on, Trish began to change. She seemed like a completely different person. She went weeks without eating or sleeping, and she said it didn't affect her. She said that she didn't feel the need to eat or sleep. Like, literally was...
She was becoming a ghost.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
Mm-hmm. And she felt as though something in the house was taking over her. One night at about 3 a.m., Trish felt drawn to the little girl in the attic again, and it was as if she had no control over it.
3 a.m.
Rose felt this little girl was a threat and that the girl would completely take over Trish and she would never be the same. Like, she was legitimately scared that she was
Understandably so.
going to lose her daughter. So there were times where Trish would adamantly want to leave. She would go to her mom saying, like, Mom, we have to get out of here. You know, like, get me out of here. But then her decision would turn on a dime, and she would lose her mind at the thought of leaving. Like, get crazy at the thought of leaving the house. Like, don't take me out of this house. I'm not leaving. This is our home. We're not leaving. So Rose started doing some research and found that people had been caught trying to escape slavery in the underground, in the neighborhood nearby, because there was an underground railroad.
Okay.
And they were hung on her property years ago. Okay. She also found that a preacher had gotten his daughter pregnant and had drowned the child behind the house in the river in 1840.
Ew.
So they thought that this was the little girl that was appearing to them, like the daughter of incest. Rose was petrified that the girl would also lure Trish down to the river and drown her, because Trish and the little girl were becoming so close that she thought that this little girl would wanted her permanently as a friend in the afterlife. So when she found this out, Rose kept watch over her daughter for weeks on end. And one night, while Rose was asleep, Trish snuck out with the little girl down to the water. So Rose woke up and saw that Trish was gone, and she searched and searched and searched the house, like looked all over for her, and she was going absolutely, insane trying to find her. Suddenly, she went downstairs and she saw that Trish had come back up to the house but was soaking wet. And Trish had no memory of how she got down to the water or how she'd gotten back to the house. But, thankfully, I don't know what, something snapped her out of it and she was able to get to the house. So Rose took her to the hospital and she was there for more than a week. While Trish was away, Rose packed up and moved them out. Eventually, Trish was able to shake off any lingering presence of the entity that had attached itself to her, but this took some time. And that's it.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine?
So creepy.
Yeah. And I think the scariest part to me is, like, let's just say, going upstairs in your house, seeing a little girl, knowing she's dead, but interacting with her every day.
Seriously.
Isn't that crazy?
I imagine that a part of it was, like, the psychological pull from the little girl. Like, she was, she was already influencing her from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But that is crazy.
Yeah. Ugh. So, story number 2 at a close. But again, if you want to go and watch those,
I think I'm going to see if I can find that on Hulu.
Yeah. You can log into my Netflix. It's fine.
Thanks.
Season 2, episode 6 is with Mark Foster in Macomb, Illinois. And season 2, episode 5 is with Rose and Trish.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yep.
No thanks.
So, well, there. We hope we gave you what you wanted. We loved this week's episode. Research was a lot of fun. And again, next time we're going to give you your true crime fix.
Yes, I'm excited about this.
Yes. We also kind of wanted to explain the fact that, so when we signed up with our websites and, getting the data that we need to upload, we have enough data we found with the length that we like to keep our episodes at for about 3 episodes per month.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to commit to 3 episodes a month with a week off here and there. It turns out next week is Mother's Day. And because of the fact that Kayla and I are both mothers, we're going to take that week off from recording. So we're going to give you 3 episodes next month, but next week will be an off week.
Yeah. And basically what we're going to do from here on out is we're not going to commit to every single weekend. We're just going to announce the date when the next episode is coming so that you know when to look for it.
Yes.
So we figured that would be easier than being like every 4th month or every 4th whatever off. Yeah. And then, it gets confusing.
Yes. Especially with summer coming up and things getting a little crazy. Yeah. We love the podcast and we want to make that a priority for you guys and for us. But we also, have some stuff coming up in our lives. Yep. So we need to take that into account too.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah.
And I feel like it also gives us more time to be able to put more effort into the show too.
Yes.
With content. So I think you're definitely going to need some chamomile tea after this episode. And if you turn the lights off, you probably want to turn them back on now.
Yes. So again, relax, turn the lights on. If you need to sleep with them on tonight, nobody's going to judge you. Nope. I've had to do that before also.
Put on some rain sounds, some white noise so you can't hear the things going bump in the night.
And good luck sleeping.
Good luck sleeping.